Hi, Vicky.
All right, here we go. So everybody, just so you know, we're live broadcasting, okay?
Hi.
You look good, yeah, you look good. We're just waiting for Rory, he's a little late.
One of my kids.
Are we doing the change order?
Pardon?
Are we gonna do the change order tonight? No. Okay.
Well, we could, but we're not supposed to.
Okay.
There you go. That's okay.
Lori.
Never
Right
start
there.
without you.
Watch the wires. And then I just, printed out an extra copy of that one in case we needed it, but I didn't know what else was.
Great.
There's stuff in your box. Actually, there's stuff in everybody's box. For Thursday. Okay, I'd like to call this town board workshop meeting to order. Got it? Well, I don't, well, so we do this, right? Let's do that. This actually has to go this way. Okay, so this is so workshop meetings, we don't vote. Okay, what we do is examine and research and discuss. So tonight's topic is the legalization of marijuana for dispensaries and lounges in the town of Pine Plains. And I would just like to open the floor to whoever wants to start talking. I thought actually, if it's okay, I might read some of these documents that I've got, just because they have a good background. Is that okay? Okay. New York State, through the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, or MRTA, has legalized the possession and use of cannabis. However, the regulated retail sale of adult use cannabis is not expected to begin until late 2022 or early 2023. The state regulatory framework being created is analogous to the Alcoholic Beverage Control Law and the New York State Liquor Authority. The framework is not complete, but several components are known. There will be real retail stores, sometimes called dispensaries, analogous to wine and liquor stores, and on-site consumption sites, sometimes called lounges, analogous to bars. The state is prohibiting retail sale and or on-site consumption within 500 feet of a school and 200 feet of a house of worship, analogous to alcohol sales laws. All cannabis sales will be subject to a 4% local sales tax, which will be distributed to the county where sales take place. Counties are entitled to retain 25% of the local tax collected and must distribute the remaining 75% to the municipalities within the county in proportion to sales in each locale. Communities without sales will not receive revenue. I'm going to skip the next one, just doesn't relate to us. It's about villages. Under state law, cannabis smoking and vaping is treated the same as smoking or vaping tobacco products and is prohibited in all the same places. Towns and villages may pass local laws and land use regulations governing the time, place, and manner of the operation of retail dispensaries and or on-site consumption sites, provided such laws or regulations do not make operations unreasonably impracticable. That was impractical is what they mean. Peace officers will be able to inspect all licensed or permitted premises and all records of licensed operators. At the local level, state law for retail and on-site consumption will be deemed automatically opted in unless the municipality passes a local law and opt-out subject to permissive referendum preventing cannabis sales prior to December 31st, 2021. If the municipality opts in, retail and or on-premises sales cannot be prohibited, but can be subject to local zoning, which cannot place unreasonable restraints on the business. Other aspects of marijuana production and distribution have been preempted by state law and cannot be prohibited. If the town opts out, then it may opt in later, but the town cannot opt out of either retail sales or lounges unless it passes a local law. And that's basically it. All right, that's the first thing I wanted to read. Then, what do you think about the emails? Reading the emails?
That we've received so far, how voluminous are they?
They're short. There's a lot of them.
There are a lot of them. Can you summarize them?
I could. I would say that there are almost everyone who wrote said fine with the dispensary, but nobody quite understands how the lounge would be regulated. And I would say that's the summary. I have some.
They were just queries on the lounge. They weren't outright negative on the lounge.
Well, the ones that want the dispensary
Yes.
there are some who want the lounge, and then there are some who question how would that be? How would that act? Do we need another bar in town? Basically is the way they're looking. And there was a concern about traffic, but the traffic that people have seen over in Great Barrington was largely due to COVID, because they weren't letting people in those places. So they had to go through in their cars.
It was actually a pretty long line before COVID.
Actually, yes.
Okay. I wouldn't know that.
A friend.
A friend.
A long line of New Yorkers we've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are people actually coming, going over there from New York. I've heard that too.
I think James Cagney was one.
Oh, yeah. There's at least one business in town that would like to have an after-hours lounge.
Did they share what that would look like at all? Because there's nothing in the law yet that sort of suggests
would have-
what that might be, right?
We would certainly have to regulate that. We would have to write a very specific law for that.
But what, will there be some guidelines on lounges coming out from the state as well? Or do we know?
We don't know that, but I think we'd have to come up with it. Or we could use it like bars. We could take the language about bars and change it around or do something with it to.
Is it possible to anonymize that email, if that's the appropriate way to?
Yeah,
to
sure.
share with
I
the
think,
business?
on a business level, I have a vision as an owner of having an after-hours smoking lounge. A kind of farm-to-table experience using local land, hiring residents from the community, which we serve. By offering something other towns don't have, we could potentially draw in customers that would gas up at Stewart's, eat at one of the places in town, pick up groceries, wine, office supplies, flowers, maybe a hot shave while here, visit the surrounding farms, catch a show at the Stissing Center, another endless list. There's been an influx of new people, whether we like it or not. That goes on to just, but I think that's the only vision so far in terms of,
So it would be a place maybe downtown where people would
yeah,
smoke cannabis.
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want children to be allowed in there. That
But
was
I'm
my
not sure,
choice.
I'm not sure you can smoke the cannabis inside a bar because you have the restrictions, the
Still
tobacco.
That's a
You have
good.
tobacco restrictions and
Right.
anywhere where there's a tobacco restriction, there's gonna be a smoking restriction. So the lounges may be eating lounges, not smoking lounges. I don't know. What do I know?
That, and then my other question was, how do hookah lounges? There's a hookah lounge at Poughkeepsie,
That's a good question.
so how does
There
that
must be
regulate?
some permissions. I think there's cigar lounges around too.
Right, there are, yeah. So I don't know how those regulate, but that would be something to look into, but that would be if we were going to write our own law around it. The marijuana laws topic is the first time an article has hit home for me personally. A few weeks ago, I was certified by my doctor to be able to purchase medical marijuana from a dispensary for chronic pain. I'm now beginning the process of looking into where I could go. The closest to Pine Plains is Kingston, Albany, and Wappingers Falls. I have also learned that each dispensary makes its own decisions as to what products to sell. So Kingston, although Kingston is closest in location, it may not have as big a product selection as perhaps Albany or Wapping. I would be in favor of having a dispensary located in Pine Plains because I have limited walking mobility. And it would be a great help to me if I did not need to travel. And that's just on the dispensary. These are all yes, yes. People don't want it smoked in town parks or public buildings, which it wouldn't be because we already have that zoning. Yes. I think we are all for a dispensary in town in an appropriate location. We are less inclined towards a bar setting as we would prefer not to have to be concerned about intoxicated persons, drivers, and especially the synergistic impact of alcohol and marijuana usage. But a place where people can buy the product for their own use at home is good with us. Here's a negative. I am strongly want to keep this drug, and that is what it is, and leads to more bad drugs. Out of Pine Plains, we would get people coming here to buy them. Please don't let them sell it here. I would like to see a dispensary in town so we can spend the resulting tax money on civic improvements. And I think it would be legal, it should be legal to be used at the back bar. So if people want to spend time there when the loud music is playing. I won't go on with that one.
That is one of the things we talked about the other day briefly, but that strange notion that
You can.
we might not have a lounge somewhere, we might have a lounge, or we might have a retail space, but there will be people who are by law permitted to be anywhere in the community that tobacco is permitted to be smoked, who could be smoking cannabis too.
Yeah.
That might include, outside Leah's Mountain View or the backyard garden. So there is this strange new paradigm that we
Right.
find ourselves in. Anyway, I just wanted to contextualize a little bit there.
Well, I'm wondering if those restaurants couldn't have their own policy, like that they don't allow it. They don't allow smoking anywhere on their premises.
Right, I
I
think they could,
believe-
they probably could if they
Yes.
wish, yes.
And it would have to be all smoking, so you wouldn't be able to cigarette smoke at the back bar.
Yeah.
Or outside Leah's.
Yeah.
Which might not be a bad thing.
Yeah.
While my husband and I do not use cannabis ourselves, we would encourage the town to allow it and to benefit from the revenue. Perhaps it is my many trips to Amsterdam over the years, but I do not view the consumption of marijuana as the types of shops I would like to see here. A dispensary is better. Consume at home. By the way, I would not want more bars here either. No on premises, no on dispensaries. I am glad New York is finally legalizing it. I think there should be a dispensary. And the MO of states such as Massachusetts and California would be a good path to follow. It's a wonderful revenue. We could grow it here, maybe a greenhouse. I hope there will be a dispensary. I am against selling or allowing marijuana to be smoked in the township of Pine Plains. I can't tolerate the smell of it. I am writing to express my total support for the marijuana regulations as described in your most recent newsletter. I am assuming most of your constituents and the town board members will also be supportive. There are two other items you might consider. First, there will probably be a significant number of people interested in having the license to sell in Pine Plains. How to choose who gets that license could present a problem. Any perception of favoritism should be avoided. My suggestion is a lottery similar to what was done in California.
Would we
Licensing.
in the town be the group that?
I don't know. I don't think we have any
I doubt
control
that.
over that.
I don't think
so.
It's a state.
There are, according to that other document that I have here, the state regulates how many licenses are available. You just have to get one.
And then they can keep track of the distribution.
It's like, like liquor licenses are the same way. A significant part of our community is engaged in agriculture. We have dairy, beef, fruit, vegetables grown locally. Why not marijuana? All these things would certainly benefit our local economy and the town. The town is in the throes of many changes, some good and some bad, especially coming out of a pandemic, which has jolted many businesses. We feel that regulating the sale and use of marijuana would not be appropriate for such a small community. If people want to buy and use marijuana, they can go elsewhere and consume it elsewhere or in the privacy of their home. We hope that Pine Plains can find revenue in another form by focusing properly on the Carvel project and attracting more businesses and restaurants to the town. My husband and I are new residents. We raised our children in Pleasant Valley. One of the things that attracted us to Pine Plains is the wholesomeness of the village. It does not seem like a CBD-oriented business would fit into the existing village without causing substantial change. Would having a dispensary here send a message that it's fine to do drugs? Additionally, the state stands to gain a great deal of revenue from this, and while the town would, as you mentioned in your newsletter, get revenue as well, it comes with the cost of losing a little of the town's right to regulate business. I think we can regulate it. But really, let's see. This guy is worried about impaired driving. I am very libertarian minded in general and am decidedly so on this issue. My opinion is that marijuana never should have been regulated in the first place. The war on this plant has done far more harm to society than the widespread use of it ever could have. Thankfully, we as a nation are finally coming to our senses. As to Pine Plain specifically, I believe that the only restrictions placed on its use and sale should be those specifically mandated so we can keep the state off our backs. And I don't want any more time or money spent than absolutely necessary on watching or enforcing those mandates. Let people be to live their lives as they choose. This writer would like us to be studying nearby towns and how it affects them. I haven't heard of negative ramifications with dispensaries except long lines. This guy is a child psychologist and just wants to make sure it's regulated so the children can buy. This guy says, I feel that since COVID, one of the most isolating times of this generation, since we are enveloped in this time of social media instead of social gatherings, we're all retreating into ourselves. Marijuana is one of those substances that commits us to that isolation, but it is also one that is calling for us to be together. If there were legal outlets and social scenes that allow this, a marijuana bar or lounge, it would begin to change the way we use and our reasoning for it. Unlike alcohol, marijuana is not such an intense, debilitating, reckless substance, but rather one that induces thought or ease and calmness. It would be an awesome way for us to come out of our homes to do something together. But that being said, I hope the awareness around overuse and use for the wrong reasons is not overlooked. I say yes, why give Massachusetts the tax dollars for marijuana sales? I would say that all of the letters are kind of all like that. And I would kind of like to read this from this is from a business perspective. This was put together by some business folks who came to town wondering what we were going to do about it.
Business folks from business people elsewhere.
Yes, they're from Stanford
Oh,
or far away. Word on the street is that there will be anywhere from 700 to 750 retail dispensary individual licenses awarded in the state of New York. Manhattan Metro will have a chunk, but the state wants to disperse. There will be licenses for cultivation, on-site consumption lounge, retail dispensary, micro business. That is a micro business can supply any retail shop, but can only sell its own product. That's what a micro business is. Distributors, delivery people, processors, cooperatives, nurseries, registered organization, adult use cultivator, processor, distributor, retail dispensary, and adult use cultivator, processor, and distributors. Medical marijuana they're all registered. There are 0 in Columbia County. Oh, this is medical marijuana. 0 in Columbia, 1 in Ulster, and 1 in Wappingers. Why Pie Plains aligns with the comprehensive plan. Goals for preserving rural character, promoting agriculture, prosperous hamlet, providing quality municipal services, and maintain housing opportunities. Town feedback. The comprehensive plan update survey revealed survey respondents want more businesses in the hamlet along Main Street and Church. Respondents want more retail, including hardware store, professional services, restaurants and cafes, artisan and craft manufacturing, and a fitness center. That Respondents see opportunities for hotels and bed and breakfasts in the residential part of the hamlet and want businesses in the rural part of town to be working farms related to agriculture or light industrial. Agricultural related businesses could include nurseries, breweries and distilleries, bed and breakfasts, artisan manufacturing and small scale manufacturing. Pine Plains is 10 miles from the Massachusetts border, where there are 4 to 5 dispensaries in just Great Barrington, Sheffield area. In Great Barrington, there's $3 million in tax revenue in 2020. 50 million total revenue in Massachusetts, which is 6% of the total state revenue. The total 3-year potential is 230 million. Theory Wellness, which is one of the stores in Great Barrington, 17 million in the first 6 months, now 8 million a quarter, annualized tax revenue of 1.6 million just for Theory. In Massachusetts, 20% of the tax revenue is from marijuana sales and 5% goes to the local municipalities. And then they just talked about what the tax revenue could go for. Parking is key for locations, cannot be within 500 feet of the school or 200 feet of a house of worship. Security upgrades the local community because there's private security for all of these. They have to be highly secure. And if not Pine Plains, people will go elsewhere to buy, Great Barrington and Rhinebeck. And then the last point I thought was very interesting, the illicit market, which can be laced with other things. And that is not going to go away. That is all the documents I have. Start us out. I'm sorry Matt's not here. I know his position on everything, but
So I know we chatted more on it today a little bit. My sense was that maybe the more narrow scope of what we're talking about today is are the retail dispensaries and the lounges.
Yeah.
Could we also pass a law that would prohibit the cultivation or the other category there, the micro businesses? Or is that outside of our group?
I don't think you can stop cultivation.
That's,
I think that's a
that was discussed.
Right.
yeah, that's like an ag and market thing, isn't
Right.
it?
I mean, commercial cultivation, not the personal cultivation, which I understand is permitted to each individual. In New York, I think is allowed to grow a certain amount of
Right.
cannabis,
right.
but I mean, commercial.
Seems to me one of the things that Warren gave us was got into that, we didn't really have any control over growing. You know,
That's
all
my
the
sense.
licenses,
That's my
all the
sense.
licenses are from the state.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, let me say what I find frustrating. Okay, what I find frustrating is that there are a number of states in the country that have been dealing with marijuana sales now for a number of years. And we don't really have any good feedback from what the problems have been and where the successes are and an overview of what their experience has been. And I don't understand why, but I don't think it really is available.
Right, why, yeah,
Which I think is kind of ridiculous, because that's kind of stuff that I would like to see long term. For instance, I'm very concerned about teenage use of marijuana. I've read a number of studies where the teenage brain does not deal well with marijuana, and that's an educational piece, and that's kind of out there. But what experiences are from these states that have had it for quite a few years now is, I would say that.
you mean, in a way, has consumption in
Like
teenagers going
Colorado.
up.
Well,
in
not
Colorado.
not just teenagers, but their general experience with having had this business available for a number of years. So maybe we can look into and look a little further as to whether there is information along those lines.
I think it's been boom town in Colorado as a result.
yes, but you know, what experiences have people had that were problematic in terms of medical issues or conditions? And what problems have there been? You know, are they as positive now as when they began? I don't know. I don't know. But it's like, to me, there's a missing piece there.
As you noted, because it's prohibited at the federal level, there might not be, you know, that federal oversight, that sort of maintenance of it as
Right.
an issue.
But you would think that as a state, they would want to have some analysis of their own state, and maybe it exists, and it's just not widely distributed.
Have you looked a little bit? I wonder if it's.
I looked a little bit, I haven't seen anything.
I heard there was an uptick in vehicle violations or traffic.
Which is a concern if you have a lounge. It's not a concern when you have a selling of it, that's really not a problem. You can go home and do it, I don't see a problem whatsoever. That's my concern, but on the other hand, I can't see giving up that amount of tax revenue. And that kind of business opportunity to people who are interested in having that as a business, and growing the product is definitely consistent with an agricultural perspective. So that's where I stand at the moment.
I guess I feel like how I put this, the devil we can handle is better than the devil we can't. And it's like having grown up in the 70s, you know, where we could get pot easily anywhere in where I grew up, and you still can. And that's not legal stuff. If we at least allowed a dispensary, then it would take away the market for illegal pot here. And I think that is a good thing. As regards to lounges, I would really want to see those regulated quite extensively. If somebody told us, who told us that there aren't any in Great Barrington yet, or anywhere on that sort of, they haven't opened any lounges, so that's kind of interesting. That there's almost no market for it in a way, nobody's clamoring.
I still don't maybe really understand what a lounge might be. 'Cause I can't
That's
imagine
my
someone wants to sit in a storefront in
Right.
downtown Pine Plains
It's kind of,
and, you know, smoke joints or something like that, or cannabis hookahs or whatever. Maybe they do. But I could imagine it being some component of something else that a business is doing somewhere. I think of, you know, the distillery on the outside of town, like it's maybe a place where grounds, it's out of doors for that type of activity to happen. It's some edibles lounge. I feel like it's a very different
Right.
experience and vibe for the community. Probably. But I'm not sure what a lounge means. Seems pretty cut and dry with retail dispensaries. My inclination, though, at the same time, is to be not like, I don't think we should be terrified of whatever's about to happen. You know, but I've seen like a sea change. I'd be excited to hear otherwise from Colorado too. I suspect it hasn't been something that was bad for Colorado.
I wonder how we could find out. I mean, it seems easy enough to kind of call a mayor. You know, why not? And just think of, I would have to think about. I could just call a mayor or a town supervisor in Colorado and say, how's it going? Why not?
Yeah, or California too. Massachusetts might be too young into it to really know what it means. yet.
But does Massachusetts have that lounge versus dispensary?
No, they
choice?
allow both,
They allow.
yeah, but they haven't opened any.
So they haven't actually licensed it.
Well, I don't know if they've licensed any, but they haven't opened, there aren't any. That's an interesting.
I don't know if they exist in California. But they don't.
Maybe lounges.
Lounges.
I don't know. I have to find
Well,
out.
that's
Okay,
another
we have some
problem.
more research to do.
Where do lounges exist? Well, Amsterdam, right? I've never been there, so.
Retail dispensaries seem like a great opportunity. I'm curious to hear that they're gonna share the tax revenue too, but is it on a capital basis or based on gross sales from the community or
Well,
some other format?
what was it that said that, it's 13% tax, sales tax for the state. Out of which we would get 4% of what, and it said that if you don't opt in, you don't get any of that sales tax, so it's not like.
But I
sales
think
tax.
I think that's a countywide sales tax. And,
Yes, the county will regulate.
and so 4% of the countywide sales tax goes to the county to distribute, probably population wise, to the towns that have it. I don't know.
So it's
Well,
county by
that's-
county,
no,
not, it's
that's
not
how-
statewide.
That's how the sales tax works here anyway.
Yes, exactly. Like,
Like, this is different because we get sales tax, let's say, probably generated by East Fishkill and Wapanger,
Yes.
because they have the malls.
yes.
We get that, and it is based on a per capita kind of calculation. But this, if a town doesn't have a dispensary, they don't get any tax, sales tax.
But in terms of the distribution, my guess is that would be done on the populations of the towns that are permitted, that permit.
I'm not sure that's true, because,
I don't know, but
yeah, no, I don't think that's what it is. I think it's a straight 4%.
of what you sold in your town.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say exactly.
Yeah.
We don't know if that's exactly.
This
Oh,
is
that-
every
we've been trying-
probability that these businesses won't
I have a-
do so.
it's a
right
different
now.
calculation.
Integrate in more urban areas. It's-
25% of the funds from the taxes stay with the county, 75% remain distributed to towns, cities, and villages in proportion to sales from retail dispensaries within that jurisdiction.
Right, so that's.
Okay, so depending on your sales, you get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
I'm happy.
Sure.
Yeah. Anybody want to say anything?
Yeah, I just had, on the dispensaries, do they sell both, like the
Medical?
CBD, medical and
Yes,
recreation?
yes.
So the same place. So I went to a place in Michigan one time for my arthritis for CBD. and I thought it was sold that. I don't know if it was legal, I don't know.
But the CBD is sold in almost all the
Yeah,
pharmacies
okay.
now
Right.
here.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any special licensing, but
Oh,
it's
okay.
the THC is the one that
Right.
they're regulating.
And the thing I was worried about too is the, how pure it is, how, whatever, whether it's CBD or, they say there's so many things that
So
can
many
get in there.
variations. Well, that
I'm
doesn't-
sure it'll have to be tested.
Yeah, that doesn't-
That's where I would really want the regulation, yeah.
Oh, for sure, you're gonna see.
But
that.
where they have the medical marijuana, that's really strictly regulated as far as I know.
Okay.
As far as strength and purities and
Yeah, yeah,
impurities and things like that.
I believe it's a different price point too. In Massachusetts, it might not be subject to sales tax if it's medical.
Oh,
And I
Yeah.
believe it is sold at the same venues, but it's a totally different tax rate and even a
Oh.
price point. And that might be a choice of the business owner, not by law.
Okay.
This New York State is pushing this on us very quickly.
Mhm.
We have to respond within a very, very short period of time. I noticed this was April, but I mean, we basically got this last month or so.
Well,
and
it's-
we were
yeah.
told that we had to respond by
This
the end of
was
the year.
presented at some kind of
Association of
lunch,
Towns. Yeah,
with the legislators.
right,
So then it trickled down from the legislation to,
right.
the
But I mean, this was the Association of Towns.
yeah, But
So.
it was
but
a legislator.
But it does, what I was saying is that, you know, we're being asked to really react to something with an awful lot of questions. You know, not all blanks aren't filled in. But you had read something about the lounges wouldn't be until after 2022 or something in
It
that
says-
first thing.
It says, yes, the retail sale of adult use cannabis is not expected to begin until late 2022 or early 2023.
Three.
So there's a lot of time there, but in terms of opting out,
Out.
that's the
Right.
thing that we have to be concerned about.
But it did say we could opt back in.
If we opt out, we can opt back in. If we opt in, we can't back out.
And we have the ability, if we do opt in, to consider the zone that these businesses find themselves in.
Correct. We could work on the zoning for this and attract a business maybe earlier than surrounding town.
Well, I'm in favor of the dispensaries. I'm not in favor of the lounges at this point. I want to know more about those, and I like some of the follow-up questions for them.
Right.
But that's my personal feeling. Right.
I think I agree with that too, though. I think if we were to prohibit, allow them to appear, probably wouldn't disaster somehow.
No.
But I look forward to seeing
No,
how
I
it's
know.
implemented.
But we can also do due diligence on this subject. And then
Yes.
in a year, decide we want the lounge. And then figure out how to regulate. So we're not losing it for hours necessarily.
Yeah, Vicky,
You mentioned in your letter an after hours. You said it was an after hour lounge.
well,
Yes.
somebody was proposing that. so
Right.
I don't know what they meant by it.
Well, an after hour would be obviously after the bars close, then it becomes an after hour place, like a bar,
Oh,
they have after hour bars. So this would be the same thing. Just wondering, if you're gonna allow it in the center of town.
Well, it would
Because
have to be,
it would be like when the library is done, the old library would be over there. It would be at the backyard garden, it would be at the platter. I like Rory's idea.
Yeah.
Like at a distillery outside of town,
that venue
but
makes
in the
sense.
center of town, and
Wouldn't be any park.
right behind Howard, you have Pioneer Drive, it's full of young kids.
Yeah.
You know, going down North Main Street now, there's a lot of young kids, so, you know, is that fair to them?
No,
No.
I'm with you, Vicky. I'm
I
with you on
mean,
that.
I just,
But you know what,
You
at
know.
the moment, nothing much happens after hours in Pine Plains.
oh, no, that's not true.
No, it's not true.
That's not true.
Okay.
You lived in the center of
Okay.
town.
Yeah,
have
you
a
know.
lot
You
of-
gotta come down on your bicycle some
How about
night
me?
around
Nothing
11 or
happens. Oh,
12.
okay. All right.
it's hot.
The noise level is unbelievable after 10 o'clock sometimes.
Really?
Yeah.
But that's something that we could control the zone. We could control the hours. So.
Yeah.
I mean, an after hours
I don't see it
facility,
making
not
after hours.
necessarily a text parking lot congregation.
It's not controlled now, so I don't know how
Right,
to
yeah.
control.
Well, the
you know,
businesses
the
are,
noise
aren't
or
they?
What goes on.
The businesses are controlled. Vicky, aren't the businesses controlled? Now, they close at a certain time and that's it.
I don't think do we have new laws like that?
No.
We don't have laws where they have to close at certain hours.
New York
Yes,
State
they
might
have to
mandate
buy
Well,
4.
they,
what's on your state liquor license.
Listen,
or
right.
what's on, you know, you're supposed to abide by those. What time. you put
Each
in.
liquor license is different, town by town.
No, that's just not New York State.
There's just not that many, so you have to get, when one becomes available.
but I mean, they're county by county. The county
Not
sets the hours.
anymore. You can apply for a liquor license and get it. Like in a lot of states, you have to buy a liquor license from whoever is selling. New York State, you apply for it. There's no limit on it. A business applies for it.
What do you all hear in town? Are people anxious or enthusiastic to hear chat?
I think what I hear,
The
most
retail
people were
part.
for the dispensary.
That's what I hear. I did a
I think most
straw
people
poll.
were for the dispensary.
Dispensary, yes.
Most of the people in town either,
Individual soul liberty.
What's the fire department think about it? EMS services, any organized opinion? No
No
comment.
comment on that.
Was it? That's a problem we already have.
what do the police feel?
I've spoken about it with John a lot. I mean, it was one of our kind of conversations, and he's of a couple of minds. On the one hand, as a citizen, he feels like we shouldn't interfere with that. People should be able to do what they want if it's regulated like alcohol. The problem he sees is that it's hard. There's confusion about how you can't do a breathalyzer. Correct. So how would you get somebody for driving while high? And so that's the issue for him is now they drive high now, just so you know. I mean, everybody's driving high. They probably get high on the way back from Great Barrington. So the question becomes, if they're driving erratically, he can stop them, they can stop them. But then the problem is, what tests could they administer? If the car is reeking, that's easy, but
Do they ever issue field sobriety tests? That would, no, is that any,
I don't think that they have any, what's the word, protocols to do that.
they must know how to do it.
They do their own, I mean, if it smells like pot.
No, but there is field
It's like a
sobriety.
motor
There's
function
walking,
test.
Well, there's, oh, yeah,
Okay,
there's
well,
that,
Those kinds of
That
things, they can put you through that.
absolutely.
So that seems like a minimum.
Yeah. Oh, they could do that.
And you can get a ticket for your erratic driving, you know, and that kind of dangerous driving, so that there is some, there's some, consequences.
So how do they test truck drivers? I mean, there's federal regulations.
Oh, well, they have to go and get tested. Because
So-
marijuana stays in your bloodstream for a while,
It stays for 30 days.
so that they,
Right, so wouldn't that be the same then? Wouldn't they
Well,
be-
you can't do it on site, like it's in a traffic stop. That test is, I think it's a blood test or a pee test,
It's
right?
a urine test, it's
Yeah.
done at a hospital when you're supervised. so-
Right. Yeah, but then you'd have to drive the person to a hospital. I mean, this is a whole big deal.
Right,
Yes.
that's state drivers, all of them, they come in, they just randomly are picked, bus drivers are picked.
Yeah.
And they're sent for.
Yeah.
So,
Will
and
that continue to be the
our
case
highway
in
people are
New York?
required
Yeah.
to get regular
right,
tests.
so. I mean,
Will we continue to do that? We will.
The highway,
Oh, yeah,
Well,
that you
they-
can't have a
they-
Yeah,
CDL
that's
without.
They
federal,
cannot,
Yeah,
that's CDL's federal.
that's federal,
Okay.
yeah, so they, yes, they will be.
and it's not like alcohol where it dissipates quite quickly in your system, it doesn't. So you can have a positive test, and you're not high. That's just, that's happening.
Yeah, it stays in for 30 days in your body.
Is there such a need here in our small town? Need, the reason for doing it mostly just revenue,
The reason for allowing it,
for allowing it, just the revenue.
the revenue's a big deal.
I know
Yeah.
it's a big deal.
People, somebody might want to open one.
And
Having a
it is now legal under the state law. So are we going to keep people from participating in that kind of economic activity? I think that's a bit of
I keep going back to the safety issue that it's safer product. It's in a dispensary than it is on the street. And yes, we could use the revenue. We have no revenue in Pine Plains to speak of. And we could use that. But also I just feel like and the medical marijuana being very available here for me. Very beneficial.
When you chat with other supervisors, would we be an outlier in permitting retail sales here in this part of the county?
I would say, right, the last meeting I went to was pretty much 50-50. Everybody's questioning the lounge. Half the people are opting out of the dispensary and half the people are opting. So it's 22 towns and villages in Dutchess County.
And but they know also, if you opt out, you can opt in later, at a later time. You can't do that the other way, you can't do it. Right. So we probably don't want to authorize a lounge right away.
Well, that's how I feel. I think we could work on some severe legislation around it. We could make it really hard to have one. And then at the same time, we'll have time to research it and see how it goes in other places. It's sort of, somebody said in one of the letters, well, do we want another bar in town? And kind of like that.
Maybe a wine bar or a brewery.
I think it'd be great. I don't know. I don't have a problem with it.
Millbrook Millerton.
Well, this isn't, her,
This was kind of interesting. I don't know
Yeah.
Where she got the information.
I'm not sure either.
I'm really surprised the Village of Rhinebeck.
He's waiting. He was gonna wait. I don't think town of Rhinebeck's gonna wait. Yeah, no, Rhinebeck is, yes. That's the town, not the village.
That's a strong poll. It's not-
Yeah, it is a straw,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not a done deal, no.
How could we see the referendum coming to bear out in any of this? Might we see people say that we want this activity?
Well, it's a permissive referendum. So if we say no, then they can put it on the ballot if they do what's necessary to make a permissive referendum happen.
So we could let the community know that too, if that makes sense to everyone else.
Right.
If
It's,
we-
it's available.
But if all we have to do is pass a local law one way or the other, and then that's subjected to a permissive referendum, we would at least know before we actually got to that. You know, what the community's feeling is if there's a pretty significant number of people who want to participate in the permissive referendum, then we would know. You know, that this has to be rethought.
But we would initiate that procedurally, or that'll happen anyway,
I would believe that would have to be initiated.
if we pass, no matter what type of law.
It's another permit, it's a petition kind of situation, courts of petition. So someone would have to get a petition together.
Yeah, that's what,
Right.
takes signature.
They'd say, but you know, it also, we will have, if we were to pass a local law, say at this coming meeting, then we would have to schedule a public hearing, you know, a well-advertised public hearing. And so again, we will be able to get a good sense of what more people want than 4 or 5 people.
Personally, I wouldn't have known about this except for Dare's letter that
Mhm.
someone said to me, would you like to get it? It's like, I didn't even know it existed.
Mhm.
So I think there are probably, and we're so happy out on Bean River Road, you know, it's like,
Mhm.
we don't need to come to town too often to be happy. So.
No pun
Vegetables.
Grow your own then.
But I do think that that's very. And there needs to be more understanding, and, you know, I told Sarah, this dialogue is great, because it brings understanding and even more of the educational side of it, so.
And then if we're passing a law, then there will be an opportunity for a formal public hearing. And more people get, and we're also encouraging people to write in. We don't reflect
Yes,
them and we're digesting them as they come in.
Mm.
How people are feeling on this, and it's, we are at the very beginning,
Mhm.
so we're looking for more input.
So I, yeah, I think we're all agreed, our inclination sounds like we're drawn towards.
Well, we're also, our inclination is we need as much public input for sure.
Right.
And further due diligence on our part in
Yes,
terms
right.
of what's out there and what we
Yeah.
can find out about other jurisdictions and their experiences.
Do
I'm
we
happy
need
to
to
call
be,
some mayors.
we don't need to be voting on this Thursday, we've got the rest of the calendar year to make this decision.
We don't have to vote this Thursday at all.
But it does take a period of time. in order to get
At all
it all
together.
together.
So maybe we-
Yeah, I think that's what Warren's been pushing.
I think this is probably not a good question, but if it's legal, is the price going down or up? or what? So that would have something to do with our revenue, right? We gotta-
Well, we can.
Usually if
undersell-
if it's
we can
legal, then it's
undersell
cheaper,
Great
right?
I'm gonna go look
No, I
at
don't-
what
no,
it looks like, and
I like the
price.
CBD oil. if I-
Oh, is it?
if I-
Well,
if I
but
wanna
I'm
get
not
it.
used to paying for it anyway,
Okay,
so I don't.
So you
you know,
can get it
I
from
was-
expensive.
I was put
Yeah, that's-
subject
It is
to
expensive.
that.
The CBD oils and salves are.
Yeah, I know it's-
are expensive.
Yeah, yeah. I wish that would come down a little bit.
Well, I bet it would if there's a market. That's what I think you would, since the market's going to determine a lot of this.
There is also a chemically produced marijuana.
Right.
Pure marijuana that can be, under a prescription, you can get at Mass or something.
Yes,
Yes,
that's been around for a long time.
yeah. And that's, it's very good for some people.
Right.
With the medical
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah, I
So
know
that's available.
Great for people.
But you have to work with your doctor and get the prescription and have a good reason. for getting it.
Well, I wonder if we'll get a lot more feedback after tonight. People
Well, I
watching.
hope so.
Yeah.
I will tell people to write me at supervisor at pineplains-ny.gov. And I think what I read tonight was from about 30 emails. So
Yeah, that's actually, that's quite a lot.
It is.
Yeah.
That's good. That's
And
good.
then I did a straw poll at the beer garden.
Might not be the best place. to
Yeah,
go.
no.
You're not
Turns
catching
out
all
everyone was
that.
for it.
And what time did I do that straw poll? All right, are we done?
Yeah, I think that's
I
fine.
think this is a lovely discussion and thank you all for your coming and your input. And I'm gonna call some mayors and,
That'd be good.
and we can continue it on Thursday and with Warren and see.
You know, when my sister was living, she said that there was a lot of problems with accidents and stuff. and
Right.
like you said, there's no way to test.
Yeah.
So at least out there. And the insurance companies too.
All right.
So it'd be nice to, that's years ago, so it'd be nice to see
And the
that.
insurance companies are constantly doing actuarial stuff on
Yeah.
that, so they might even have some information.
Yes. Paul's or bottom.
Yes, right.
Okay.
And they can tell you how many deer if they are.
All right,
Dara?
yeah.
Do you think the Board of Health will weigh in on this in any way? They regulate smoking in restaurants and
Well, they haven't.
I wonder if they will, because you're not supposed to smoke under any kind of a covering.
Yeah. Oh, that's,
umbrellas Or any of that.
Vicki,
You're not
that would
supposed
apply to marijuana. Because,
Would.
yes, it does apply to marijuana. Any smoking would not be permitted. So for Pine Plains, any town park, any public, you can't walk down the street and smoke pot. Because you can't walk down the street with an open can, an open container.
Right,
So anything that,
so they will
Liquor.
weigh in.
that's absolutely already the law, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
But you
and
can
that
do
cuts out a
So-
lot of places.
Yeah.
Well, those were two different things you said. You said that it was the places that are governed where tobacco can be smoked. And then you suggested that maybe it's the same open, the ABC law, the open the container
Container
law
law, yeah.
also applies. Is it
That's a local
true?
law.
That's a local law. I
Open
see.
Container law is an open law.
We would have to extend that law
Town law.
to include, I think, cannabis. I don't know if it would fall
Probably
under
would
it
have to put some
immediately.
language in it, yeah,
Yeah.
but
Can passengers in motor vehicles smoke?
Hmm.
cannabis?
that would be really tricky, wouldn't it? I don't know how that works.
And then what about the gummy bears?
I don't think
Yeah.
it's-
They have, yeah.
As if it were the.
I read something
open
somewhere and I
container
just
law.
don't remember where it was.
That's a question.
But Warren had that pretty long opinion from the planner. That had a lot of that information.
Okay,
He had sent out initially. Vicky, a lot of this is speculation. We're not sure. We've heard that the licenses are gonna be like 250,000 per application, non-refundable. If you don't, it's that
well,
kind
that's
of,
to grow it though, isn't it?
I don't know what it was, but I mean, the people are throwing these numbers around and we never have seen it all put together, properly. So there's an awful lot of information out there that we don't have.
I would think the retail licensing would be the same there, and it might even have more liability, more layers.
And I'm
of
sure the
complication.
the license is going to have all sorts of insurance kind of things. They talk in terms of the person who was applying about, building vaults
Yeah,
and things like that in
Yeah.
the stores for storage. And it's not something somebody's gonna jump into and say, I'm
gonna
gonna
be
make some
a
brownies.
costly
and do
business to
this."
start, yeah.
Yeah.
And the security you have to employ
Yeah,
is pretty massive
right.
And I think.
For
you
the
can
retail
invest
side
in
or
it,
the
actually.
cultivation too. I mean.
for the dispensary, yeah, they're like armed. Yeah. Really. All
I
right,
wonder if we couldn't even
Thank you.
accommodate a business like that in our
Cultivate it. I'm just gonna-
in our center. You could.
People are gonna be going in.
Our new light
It
industrial
will.
area, I know.
that's our light industry.
Yeah, that's where it would fit better rather than in the Hamlet Center.
Yes, he does. That would be a perfect spot.
We don't need any more lights. Trust me.
But the ones we have are beautiful. You say lights?
Like,
I love the lights.
yeah,
Did you see the new flag on
Where is
the roads in attention?
Huh?
It's on 199 there. It's Chase Road.
No.
The new flag.
Community Advertising a new business.
Oh,
Like
no, I
Oh.
No, up past the new.
Oh, the
yeah,
Sugar
Maple-
Hill.
Sugar Hill.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen it, I've seen it. Yeah.
have.
I
They
saw
just
some.
opened.
They opened, they opened.
Oh, did they open?
They just opened.
They're selling corn. I
Are
saw
they?
it. I didn't get it.
The most expensive corn in this area.
All right, I'd like to adjourn this meeting.
So, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Yes.